Welcome to Swayam online portal on urban local governance. In today's video, we will be continuing on what we did in our previous video of evolution of the local government in India. In this video, we will deal predominantly the evolution of Panchayati Raj after Indian independence. We see that the evolution of Panchayati Raj after Indian independence is an amalgamation of the Veda period, the Mauryan period, the Mughal period, the Shah Suri period, and also the British in India. So you can see an influence of the Vedas and the Arthashastra and the Mauryan and the Mughal administration, and also of course the complete change and the introduction of British local government in India in the form of local self-government. Of course, we term that as self-government because we are ruling ourselves, and we see that the evolution of the Panchayati Raj after the Indian independence, moving from a police state to a welfare state. There were a number of committees appointed during the period for making the changes and also bringing in welfare program, because in India during that period there was an issue of population, there was an issue of migration, there was an issue of refugee, there was an issue of development, and poverty and hunger was something which they need to address immediately. Food security, of course, was part and parcel of the issues which really needed to be attended as far as the government of India is concerned. Although the purpose of establishing the constitution was making a free and fair government, it also was realized that the governance should start at the grassroots level. In order to do away with the Varna system, the idea of local government which is decentralized but not empowering them totally was also realized at that point during the time of independence. So the state had to take more role as far as the local government is concerned. Right now, if you see, the evolution has seen a lot of transformation. What kind of transformation is because of the need for the social change, cultural change, political change, institutional change. So if you have to give credit, we would give credit of the Panchayati Raj system post independence to few committees, especially with the acronym BAGS, which is B for Balwant Rai Committee, A for Ashok Mehta Committee, G for GVK Rao Committee, and S for the LM Singhvi Committee. Now, if you take each committee specifically, what were their recommendations, we'll understand that they have contributed largely to local government, both at the rural level as well as the urban level. The committee which was first appointed was the Balwant Rai Committee. The Balwant Rai Mehta Committee was to examine and suggest measures to bring in more development programs. The idea was not only to have government but also to have development government for the welfare of the people, for the needs of the people, and also it added with the National Extension Service. The committee was established to provide democratic decentralization of local government, which came to be known as the Panchayat Raj. What are the recommendations of the Balwant Rai Committee? I think we give a lot of credit to Balwant Rai Committee for bringing in the three-tier system. The three-tier system comprised of the Gram Panchayat, then you have the Panchayat Samiti and the Zilla Parishad. The Gram Panchayat is the smallest and the lowest unit because it starts from the villages. Then a group of villages will come under the Panchayat Samiti, and then more of the villages will contribute under the Panchayat Samiti, which also eventually a group of the Panchayat Samiti will form the Zilla Parishad. So the topmost unit is the Zilla Parishad. Zilla is identified as the district. Then you have the Panchayat Samiti, and the lowest unit is the Gram Panchayat. And you see that the directly elected representative constitute the Gram Panchayat. Because if you see, a group of villages, at least should have 100 members, will form a Gram Panchayat, and they will elect directly members for the Gram Panchayat. And then the representatives will move on to elected for the Panchayat Samiti, which eventually becomes indirect representatives, indirectly elected representatives which constitute the Panchayat Samiti. And eventually one president will be elected for the Zilla Parishad for being a member representative of that particular Panchayat Samiti. So Panchayat Samiti will be more of an executive body, execution of plans, and Zilla Parishad will act as an advisory body and supervisory body. Why do you say that? Is because you find that the district will be heading that small village, and the district will understand and plan and strategize as far as an advisory committee is concerned, and it will supervise its lower bodies which comes under it, which are the Panchayat Samiti. The Panchayat Samiti will take the responsibility of executing the plans to its villages, to explain, to advocate, to create awareness among the villages. And then you see that who is heading the as a chairperson of the Zilla Parishad, it will be the district collector. So district collector will be made the chairperson of the Zilla Parishad according to the recommendation of the Balwant Rai committee. It is also requested for providing provisions and resources as far as to help discharge the duties and responsibilities. The duties and responsibilities as far as the governance is concerned to the smallest basic unit, which is the Gram Sabha. So you see that there is an advisory committee, there is an executive committee, and the Gram Sabha has the power for directly electing its own representatives. So selecting the right representative will also give a representation to the Panchayat Samiti, which has indirectly elected. And then you have a representation in the Zilla Parishad, and the chairperson will be the district collector. The transfer of resources and power to these bodies should be ensured, should be promising, so that it is more responsible as well as accountable. The existence of the National Development Council was an eye-opener because it had accepted the recommendations. However, it did not insist on a single definite pattern to be followed by all the Zilla Parishads or all the Panchayat institutions. Rather, it allowed the state to make its decision, while it made a fundamental guideline for all the villages to follow certain principles so that the Panchayati Raj institution can be introduced in that particular place efficiently. However, Rajasthan and Orissa, of course, certain places in Madras also accepted, in Tamil Nadu, accepted the Panchayati Raj system. Andhra Pradesh also accepted in the year 1959 following a Panchayati system. Basic guidelines were followed, but not emphatically. Some state even went to a step further. It followed a 4-tier system having Nyaya Panchayat, having a different judicial body. So what does a Nyaya Panchayat do? It does not execute, but it is a judicial body, whereas the advisory body still remains with the Zilla Parishad. So we have the 3-tier system and sometimes even the 4th-tier system. And now you see how the Ka Panchayat works, which is still in existence in parts of Haryana and some of the northern states. The Ka Panchayat has its own judicial system as well as civil and social decision making power. But is it effective? No, it is found that it has been misusing the judicial power. So it was realized that the Nyaya Panchayat was not very effective because it was manipulated and used for its own benefits. And again, the problem of Varna system was always existing in the local levels or at the village level. So, Rajasthan in 1959 continued with Andhra Pradesh, and Orissa and Tamil Nadu followed the system to a certain extent, but not very strongly. So, after Balwant Mehta's committee's report, it was also recommended by the Ashok Mehta committee few changes. This committee was appointed in 1977. Say after 20 years after the Balwant committee's report. It was to aim, or it was to change or revive and strengthen the declining Panchayati Raj, because it was not made compulsory. And when it was made compulsory, few places it was insisting with few guidelines, which was not again well stimulated or well stringent enough to follow a certain guideline. The recommendations of the Ashok Mehta committee was shifting from the 3-tier system to a 2-tier system, where they had the Zilla Parishad and the Mandal Panchayat. The Zilla Parishad again was at the district level, and the Mandal Panchayat was a group of villages. Why did they remove one tier? Is because they found that certain places it was not required. The district level at the first level of supervision at the because it was emphasized by the state. So, the state had the districts under its control, and the district controlled the Mandal Panchayats. The Zilla Parishad, however, remained to be an executive body and is responsible for planning at the district level. The institutions like the Zilla Parishad and the Mandal Panchayat had to make compulsory taxation and also the powers to mobilize their own financial resources. It was a tough task for making their own taxation and revenue system. Again, because it was not made mandatory, it was again malpractices were there, misuse was there, and so the intervention of the state was essential. So, it was realized slowly that it is important to have constitutionally empowered, enshrined system, but just not having the Article 40, but also having something very constructive, so that every state has a Panchayati Raj system. Now, the introduction of the GVK Rao committee. The committee was appointed by the Planning Commission in 1985. It recognized that the development was not to be seen at the grassroots level due to the bureaucratization. So, we know that bureaucratization was also an ivory tower thinking process. In the Panchayati Raj, the role of the bureaucracy was more on a supervisory role or domination role. And so simply it was addressed as grass without roots. So, the grassroots level administration failed because of too much or over bureaucratization. And bureaucratization was only focusing on achieving its goals rather than giving an executive power or implementation or having constructively completing the process. So, there was a recommendation for a complete change in how it has to be viewed as far as the local government is concerned. So, what are the recommendations? The Zilla Parishad became the most important body in the scheme of democratic decentralization. Zilla Parishad to be the principal body to manage the development programs at the district level. So, if there is any development programs at the government, it could be safely recommended because the Zilla Parishad took the initiative for completion of the development programs even at the grassroots level. The district and the lower levels of the Panchayati Raj system had to be assigned with specific planning, implementation and monitoring of the rural development program. If you think that initially it was realized that the rural areas had to be developed. Why? Because you have agriculture, you have farming, you have irrigation, which was a concern, and food security was also a concern, and there was a lot of poverty. Of course, famine and drought was also a concern during that period, and it had to be eradicated. So, the Green Revolution and the White Revolution brought in complete change, and it could have been only implemented at the grassroots level. The post of the District Development Commissioner had to be created. He'll be the Chief Executive Officer of the Zilla Parishad. The elections to the levels of the Panchayati Raj system should be done regularly. Now, after the GVK Rao's committee, it was realized that development programs has to be realized, food security was an issue, poverty has to be eradicated, there should be hunger-free society. So, the aim was also for developing the rural areas and also strengthening the rural area and implementing structurally and definitely as far as local governance is concerned. I would like to introduce the Riggs theory at this point of time, because Riggs said that an agrarian society moving to industrial society is a tough task. Because as far as India is concerned, or China, in fact, Riggs gives an example of China because it's an agrarian society. So also India during that period was an agrarian society, and hence it had to be changing its outlook, because we need to sustain the food security with an agrarian society. We cannot completely revamp and move to an industrial society. So the transition as a prismatic society was realized in the Riggs model. So if you take the GVK Rao's committee's report and recommendation, it was emphasizing on development programs. And education, health were also a cause of concern, because poverty, famine, drought, population and development was also a concern. Now if you take the L.M. Singhvi's committee's report in 1986, the main objective was to recommend steps to revitalize the Panchayati Raj system for democracy and development. Slowly it was realized that it has to be rejuvenated. We cannot be existing with the old pattern of Panchayati Raj. We need to bring in a complete change. We need to make grassroots democracy or grassroots level decentralized democracy as an important aspect in our governance, because centralization was eating away so much of money, time, cost, and not benefiting people at the grassroots level. Of course, one of the issues of bureaucratization. So if some complete paradigm shift was realized from bureaucratization to debureaucratization, or I would say from ivory tower thinking to grassroots level thinking, so that the grassroots level governance is more emphatic. So what was the recommendation? The committee recommended that the Panchayati Raj system should be constitutionally recognized. That was the first step for local governance. So just that having an Article 40 was not enough. Constitutional enshrining of the local government was essential. It also recommended constitutional provisions to recognize free and fair elections for the Panchayati Raj system. As I was insisting that there would be influence of a group of people, because there was a discrimination of caste, or the Varna system which still existed, can be only done away with a free and fair election and representatives of the right kind of people. The committee recommended reorganization of the villages to make the Gram Panchayats more viable. It recommended that the village panchayat should have more finances to their activities. Judicial tribunals were set up so that it cannot be merged with the Nyay Panchayats. It has to have a judicial tribunal so that the Panchayat Raj institution, other matters relating to the functioning of justice and also land and legal matters can be handled with the rightful professional authorities. Now, if you take the recommendation, it was realized that the Panchayati Raj should need a revamp or a facelift, I would say, or revisiting the local government was essential. Although in paper it looked very attractive, but it was not essentially the best form. So revamping and remaking the system was essential. Now you take the Rajiv Gandhi government, it was they who have introduced, because the recommendation had come from L.M. Singhvi's committee to the Rajiv Gandhi's government, to introduce the 64th Constitutional Amendment Bill in the Lok Sabha in July 1989 to constitutionalize Panchayati Raj institution. The Lok Sabha passed the bill in 1988, the month of August, but was not approved by the Rajya Sabha. So it was essential, it has to be passed by both the Sabhas, or both the upper house and the lower house. So the lower house, the Lok Sabha passed it, but the upper house did not pass it, and it was held. And eventually they had to go in for a new election. So unfortunately, the 64th amendment, constitutional amendment, did not, it just fizzled out, did not work. So the VP Singh government tried to introduce during its short tenure in June 1990 a 2-day conference with the chief ministers under the chairmanship of VP Singh to discuss matters about the Panchayati Raj government. But unfortunately, this also could not be introduced. It was only introduced in the Lok Sabha in 1990, and again there was a lapse because of the government lapse, and so it was not passed. So the credit for the Panchayati Raj system or the local government, I would say, would go to the Narasimha Rao government. It had kept in its agenda to pass this bill. The Narasimha Rao's government introduced the Constitutional Amendment Bill in the Lok Sabha in September 1991, and it passed in December 22. It passed in December 22, 1992, and then it was also passed by the Rajya Sabha, that is by the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha simultaneously on December 23, 1992. So if you see that it was officially passed by the Lok Sabha in September 1991, and it passed December 22, 1992, and by the Rajya Sabha December 23, 1992, to officially give life to this constitutional amendment bill to an act. Later, it was approved by 17 state assemblies and received the assent of the President of India on 20th April 1993. Thus emerged the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992 and came into force on 24th April 1993. I would say this is a landmark act. The bill and the change which has been brought or introduced by the Narasimha Rao government has been remarkable and praiseworthy. The Narasimha Rao's government also introduced the Modified Municipalities Bill in the Lok Sabha in September 1991. It finally emerged as the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992 and came into force on 1st June 1993. So there came the 73rd Amendment Act of 1992 and the 74th Amendment Act of 1992. Two remarkable bills was given life as an act by the Narasimha Rao government, and hence it was constitutionally enshrined by having the 73rd and the 74th Amendment Act. Now let's see what is the difference between the 73rd and the 74th Amendment Act. If you take the 73rd Amendment Act, it brings about the Panchayati Raj to the rural India. As far as the 74th Amendment Act is concerned, it brought the municipality system to the urban government. And as far as the 73rd Amendment Act is concerned, there are the 3-tier system in the Panchayati Raj institutions. And as far as 74th is concerned, it gives rise to 3 municipalities, which is the state Nagar Panchayat, municipal council and the municipal corporation. And here again in the 73rd Amendment Act, there is part 9 of the Indian Constitution, whereas 74th Amendment Act comes under the part 9A of the Indian Constitution. And what are the articles? Article 243 to 243O comprises of the 73rd Amendment Act, and Article 243P to 243ZG comprises of the 74th Amendment Act. So, the 74th is what we are concerned as far as urban local governance is concerned, and there are three types of municipalities, which is the municipal council, municipal corporation. Municipalities represent the urban local self-government, and Nyaya Panchayat for a transitional area between the rural and the urban area was established. Most of the provisions of the two acts are parallel, differing only in the fact that they are applied to either a panchayat or a municipality. So, now when you call a panchayat, it means a rural area, and municipality is referred to urban local governance. And each Gram Sabha is a meeting of particular constituency called a ward as far as the urban constituency is concerned, and each ward has a representative chosen from among the people themselves by direct election. The chairperson of the panchayat or the municipality at the intermediate and district level are elected, and from these representatives at the immediately lower level by indirect election. There are 8 types of urban local government currently existing, and how do we categorize? Either it's in the form of municipality, notified area committee, town area committee, cantonment board, township, port trust, special purpose agency, and of course the metros. What are the measures taken during the British rule with regard to the urban local bodies? This is the question I would like to ask you all. If you take as a timeline, you should remember the timeline 1726, because it was set up as a municipal corporation in Bombay and Calcutta. Lord Mayo's resolution of 1870 should be remembered, where he introduced a roadmap of 3 bodies. Then the revolutionary Lord Ripon's resolution of 1882 as a Magna Carta should be remembered. Then also we must remember how the 1907 Royal Commission was established under the chairmanship of Hobhouse for decentralization, and the Government of India Act of 1919 also assigned itself a local self-government system. And in 1924, the Cantonments Act was established. A Government of India Act of 1935 declared local government as a provisional subject. Now, we understand that post-independent India and urban local governance has got lot of relevance in the present day situation, because there is complete changes and suggestions made by not only these committees but various other members like P.K. Vattal, John Mathai, Nuruddin Ahmed, A.P. Jain, Rafiq Zakaria, G. Mukherjee, K.N. Sahaya and C.M. Kurian. So, these introductions were realized during the Rajiv Gandhi and V.P. Singh's time, but eventually it was conceptualized during P.V. Narasimha Rao's regime as a Prime Minister of India. So, the questions I want to wind up is, what is the duration of the local government bodies? Because we see sometimes elections are not conducted. Now, if there is a tenure, then there is 5 years tenure for local governments. But if there is to be a fresh election, then if only 6 months is left, less than 6 months, then they wait for the 6 months to complete for that 5 years, and election will be started. And also it will be dissolved. If it is dissolved for say within 6 months or maybe before the 5 years of completion, then there will be an existence of another election, and after the completion of the 5 years, new elections will start. But if it is less than 6 months to complete that 5 years, then it will continue for the next 5 years. So, these are some of the questions we need to identify and answer, because it is very important as far as your MCQs are concerned. What are the powers invested on the local government bodies, especially in your locality, is something which you should understand. The powers of the local government should be realized, and also you should try and contribute what urban local governance is all about and understand the effectiveness. It is not just a one-day affair. It has a history behind of establishing a strong urban local governance. And thus I end this video of evolution of urban local governance. It started with just local government, and we saw how the Panchayati Raj took form, and how post independence we saw complete constitutional enshrinement of local governance, and how the existence of urban local government has come about. If you have any questions, you can contact me at ansuman@mcc.edu.in. Thank you.